Well, you've seen the protests in Kagiso against illegal miners today sparked, I suppose, really by that gang rape in West Village in Krugersdorp last week. Now, community members say they'll remove Zamas, but there are huge problems around the country. There are massive operations underway with people mining illegally in so many places. But there's also a legal duty on mining companies to make sure that when they leave a mine, when they're finished with it, that mine is rehabilitated. Mariette Lieferink is the CEO of Federation for a Sustainable Environment. Mariette, good afternoon to you. What duties does a mining company have when it wants to close a mine? What's it supposed to do?
Yes, thank you for the opportunity to comment. In terms of the Mineral and Petroleum Resources Development Regulations, a mining company, when it ceases mining or relinquishes mining rights, or also abandon some of its operations, it is required to obtain a closure certificate. That is within 180 days of the aforementioned circumstances occurring. There has to be a risk assessment done in order that when a mining company closes its mine, that there is no risk to, for example, air quality, that the groundwater, surface water is fit for use, that the biota, that is now vegetation, is fit for current and future use, and also that your soil, the property, is fit for current and future use. In the gold fields of the Witwatersrand, there has not been one single closure certificate issued. It is not only negligence on the part of some of the mining companies that apply for liquidation, there is also a systemic non-enforcement of this regulation by the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy. Then there is another issue that I just wish to raise. There is a lack of articulation between the closure requirements in terms of the Mineral and Petroleum Resources Development Act and also with regards to the liquidation of mining companies in terms of the Companies Act. The Mineral and Petroleum Resources Development Act places no special obligation on the court to determine whether a company applying for liquidation has applied for a closure certificate, had ensured that the transfer of environmental liabilities are done, as well as actually topped up any shortfall of rehabilitation funds. May I perhaps now exemplify what has happened in the Krugersdorp area with the Australian listed company Mintails, because that has resulted in the horrific and tragic rape of this a young woman, because that is a symptom of a much bigger cause. May I please explain that?
Sure. So what you're saying is that the company there did not perform its legal duty?
No. What happened, and I'm reading now for you from the actual Parliamentary Portfolio Committee that did an oversight visit, that is the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee of Mineral Resources in 2018. They published a report which was tabled in Parliament in November 2018, in which they made the following findings and recommendations. They said that the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy allowed Mintails to operate between 2012 and 2018, despite the fact that the department had never approved the environmental management plans of the mine and had never issued the company with a mining right under the law. They also found that Mintails, the Australian listed mining company, had an unfunded environmental liability of more than 460 million rand.
Okay. So
when Mintails,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mariette. I've seen the finding. It's an important finding, and you're right to bring it to our attention. The question, of course, is how did they get away with it? How did the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy allow this to happen? I mean, do we know why they allowed it to happen?
I would not know, but Mintails, after the liquidation of 3 of their subsidiaries, perhaps I can also explain how some mining companies obfuscate their liabilities. It's through very complex corporate structures. Now, Mintails had a parent company, which was Mintails Limited, Australian listed mining company. When the subsidiaries in South Africa experienced financial difficulties, then the mining company, the parent company in Australia, spun off or disinvested from their South African subsidiaries. They then delisted from the Australian Stock Exchange and relisted under another name, namely Armanex. By that, they simply then exonerated themselves from their environmental liabilities.
Okay.
This resulted in these mining operations that are in liquidation to have no access control, to have no fences, no warning signs, that left in its wake also toxic and radioactive dams, partially reclaimed tailing storage facilities, unrehabilitated footprints with residual radioactivity, and a cluster of open pits 30 to 40 meters deep that have not been backfilled, in close proximity to communities.
All right, Mariette, I mean, it's obvious from what you say that this mine has a strong case to answer, and clearly he's got away with it, and there's questions to ask for the Department of Mineral Resources too. I mean, I think important questions. I do want to just go back a little bit, because you seem to suggest that one followed the other. There was the gang rape, the most terrible incident that I can imagine, as a result of the mining company getting away with it. Now, I sort of follow the logic, but I think there's also something else, which is that if the mine had been properly rehabilitated and properly closed, I don't know if it would have stopped illegal mining, because people are so desperate. There's illegal mining happening all over the country. So I suppose what I'm trying to get to is, if the mine had been closed properly, would that really have stopped the illegal mining? I'm not convinced, I'm afraid, at this stage that it would have.
Yes, the illegal mining is being proliferated by the failure of mining companies to close properly, and also by the failure of mining companies when they are in liquidation, or in order for the liquidators to also ensure that the mining areas is safe. There is a duty of care also on liquidators. So I'm not saying it would stop illegal mining, but it would definitely curtail illegal mining. The South African Human Rights Commission also published a report. Remember, illegal mining, the rape of this young woman has been now resulted in illegal mining being focused upon, but this is a long-standing issue. And the South African Human Rights Commission, of which my organization was a member of the advisory committee, did an investigation in 2013. They published a report, and they stated that cessation of mining without proper closure and remediation, as well as liquidation, the failure to monitor in social and labor plans, because it leaves workers unemployed, as well as host communities unenriched and disrupted, and environmental management program reports contribute to unlawful mining. So it would not stop it, but it would definitely contribute to illegal mining. Sure. The Department of Mineral Resources also is in the process now of forming a policy in order to address illegal mining. Some of the suggestions, the recommendations is that the artisanal and small-scale mining must only be reserved for South Africans, that preference must be to cooperatives and not individuals, that artisanal and small-scale mining must only be limited to surface and open cast mining, because deep mining requires significant safety measures, and that the artisanal and small-scale mining must coexist with large operations through contributing agreements, equipment leasing, and so forth.
Mariette, I understand you've actually worked in this area around Krugersdorp, around Krugersdorp, and I mean, what we've heard from community members is that they've been complaining about the Zama settlement for a long time. Police did nothing.
Yes.
Why is it so difficult to stop illegal mining? And I mean, I sort of partially know the answer. It's underground, it's very difficult, there's a lot of violence. But, I mean, it seems that up until now, police have done really very little in that area.
Yes, and we have heard rumors that the police sometimes also accept, payment from these illegal miners. So there is also the matter of corruption. There is not a strong police force. In fact, I have done tours within the West Rand Goldfields with international and national academic institutions, special interest groups, as well as parliamentary portfolio committees, police, and so forth. Whenever I've asked the police to accompany us on the tours that I conduct, the police did not respond. So the issue here is not only lack of capacity, it's also lack of political will. In the formal mining, that is now the more responsible mining companies, there is active involvement in trying to address illegal mining. So this has of course not happened in the case of the Blyvoor-Uitser gold mine, in the case of the Grootvlei mine, in the case of Shiva mine, that was the Gupta mine, as well as now in the case of Mintails. So artisanal and small-scale mining, it must be differentiated from illegal mining. Illegal mining is often done by criminal syndicates. And I may just mention that often what happens is artisanal miners start as artisanal miners, and often there is then the risk that they become involved in criminal syndicates. And that is why criminal syndicates should be criminalized. There should be a special unit. And that is what the policy also of the Department of Mineral Resources attempts to address, that the government must strengthen laws regarding criminalization of illegal mining to deter illegal mining activities, and a trained detective unit is proposed. I also just want to mention, I have seen footage from a very credible source where you drive on Main Reef Road. You often do not observe the extent of the illegal mining, because the illegal mining often takes place on top of tailing storage facilities or super dumps, or as you have referred to, also underground. But I want to emphasize again that the criminal activities is exacerbated as a result of the failure of mining companies to close responsibly.
Mariette Lieferink, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Very, very valuable contribution to the conversation. CEO of the Federation for a Sustainable Environment. So mining companies, not one closure certificate issued in the Witwatersrand area.